Robert Nestor Marley grew up with his maternal grandfather, Amariah Malcolm, aka Omariah, and his mother Sedella's father. And Amariah Malcolm was born on April 13th, 1887 in Stephanie, St. Anne, Jamaica. Ironically, his father was also named Robert and his mother was named Catherine. Omariah is said to not have been an attendant of church, but he would sometimes read his Bible. He was reportedly a strict and godly man and also kind. He was giving. His nickname was Custis or Mas Amy, short for Amariah, by the people who lived in the district. He was a carpenter when he married Albertha Wilby. She was 22 and he was in his 30s on June the 1st, 1918 in St. Anne, Jamaica. And here is the marriage certificate. But despite being married, he was reported to have over a dozen baby mothers and more than 20 children. My mother's, whose name was Alberta, but who was known as Miss B or Miss Bertha, was kind, gentle, with a charitable heart. Everyone in the district loved her. Many years after her death, people would come up to us and tell us some little kindness she had done to them. The story in the family is that when my father got my mother pregnant, he was living with an older woman named Auntie, who used to labor in the hot sun beside him in the fields. My mother's father sent for him and told him that he had to do the right thing, and my father married my mother in a quiet wedding ceremony in Brownstown and took her in his buggy to the house on the hillside that he shared with the older lady. My mother walked bravely up the path to the house and said to an old lady she found sitting on the small wooden veranda, "Good evening. I just want to let you know that I am now Mrs. Malcolm." "Yes, Mom," the old lady replied meekly, bowing her head. With that, she went inside, quietly gathered up all her personal belongings, and hurried away from the house she had helped my father build. But she came back to visit my mother often, and soon became her helper in raising her family. I myself was this old lady's favorite, and used to spend time with her at her own yard when I was a small child. Sometimes my mother would become fed up with my father's women, and return to the house of her own father. After he had been away a few days, my father would go up to that house and ask to have his wife back. One time when he went to my mother's father, spoke sharply to him, "Nobody ever run away from good. If you want her stay, you have to treat her good." One day, I remember my mother was plaiting my hair on the veranda when one of my father's other women traced past and spat with scorn. My mother just continued to plait my hair and held her head high with pride and dignity, and didn't give any rebuke. But later, I heard her singing quietly to herself. I don't know how my mother felt about my father's other women, except from what I glimpsed occasionally with my child's eye, over 60 years ago. But I don't know that when the pressure got too much for her to bear, she would go alone to a place called Honeyland, which was her coffee field, and sing her heart out. I would hear her beautiful voice echoing off the woodlands. To this day, whenever I feel myself feeling downhearted, I follow the example of my mother and sing away my heart's trouble. According to reports, Omaria impregnated a family of 3 sisters in their district. In total, the sisters bore him 9 children. Of the 3 sisters, Lizzie bore him 4, Ruth bore him 4, but 2 survived, and Blanche bore him 3 children. So in total, 9 surviving children. Omariah's children reportedly played together in the district regardless of who their mother was. He owned a property of some 30 acres of farmland they named Smith. This is where he was cultivating his field. It is said that his wife never visited Smith because Omariah would be entertaining other women up there. He also owned one of the only generators in the district, and people from far and wide would gather on his veranda and listen to music from as far as Cuba, or even listen to a sermon that was streaming from Kingston. And he died in 1964 on September the 10th. He was about 80 years old. He died in St. Anne. It said here that he was married when he died and that he was a cultivator. He was a farmer. And he died from paralysis for 6 months, and then he died on September. So